Welcome to True Tomorrows. I'm Adrian Smith, and, let's dive into some wild what-ifs about the future.
And I'm Julia Jones,
Right.
ready to unpack the science and separate the plausible from the purely fantastical.
So you're saying you're going to help us tell apart future from sci-fi?
You got it.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
We're all about those unsettling but fascinating intersections of innovation meeting unintended consequences, where today's bleeding-edge tech might lead to tomorrow's plot twists.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the story we have today
Okay.
takes us to the edge of reality itself. It really makes you question what it means to be a hero and the possible havoc that can come even with the best of intentions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Hit me with it.
Today's story is called The Last Singularity. It features a group of superpowered heroes, the Quantum Knights, fighting to free the multiverse from a tyrannical Empress.
Sounds pretty epic.
Mm-hmm.
So are we talking like Star Wars level intergalactic empire?
Think bigger, Adrian. This Empress rules over multiple realities.
Whoa. Okay, that's next level. So these quantum knights are like multiversal rebels.
Exactly. But there's a twist that makes you rethink the whole hero versus villain thing.
Ooh, I'm all about twists. Lay it on me.
The Quantum Knights have this amazing tech that lets them shift between dimensions to battle the Empress's forces. They're winning, freeing worlds,
Wow.
but there's a catch.
Uh-oh. There's always a catch. What is it?
One of their own, Dr. Cassia, figures out that their reality-bending tech is ripping the multiverse apart. Each jump is like a cut in the fabric of existence.
So they're basically trying to save the multiverse, but accidentally destroying it at the same time. Yikes.
That's the irony. Their good intentions are literally backfiring.
Okay, but wait. If the multiverse is falling apart anyway,
Right.
maybe the Empress was trying to hold it together.
That's the mind-blowing part. It turns out her rule wasn't about power or greed. She was desperately trying to prevent total annihilation.
Whoa, so she's not actually the villain. The Quantum Knights are.
Well, it's not so simple. This story really blurs the line between hero and villain and questions whether anyone can really grasp the consequences of actions on this scale.
That's heavy stuff, Julia. So the Knights are like accidentally cosmic villains now.
Mm-hmm.
What do they do when they realize this?
The story doesn't shy away from the consequences. They have to grapple with the devastation they've caused. It's like a cosmic guilt trip.
Okay, so they mess up big time.
Yeah.
But they're heroes, right? They
That's
must
what
try
I-
to fix things.
They do, but it's not as easy as hitting undo. The multiverse is fundamentally damaged.
So even with their powers, they can't just wave a magic wand and fix everything.
Nope. It's more about accepting responsibility and trying to salvage what they can.
I guess there's a lesson there for all of us. It's like sometimes even with the best intentions, we can really screw things up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is the story digs into how they wrestle with that knowledge. How do you live with being the accidental destroyer?
That's a question I'd rather not have to answer. So what happens next? Do they confront the Empress?
They do, but not in the way you might expect. The final confrontation isn't a battle, it's a surrender.
Wait, they surrender to the villain. That's not how hero stories usually go.
Right, but this story flips the script. The Quantum Knights realize that fighting is what caused the problem in the first place.
So instead of doubling down on their power, they choose to give it up. That's pretty humbling.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is how the Empress reacts.
Yeah.
Imagine carrying the weight of the multiverse on your shoulders and then seeing the ones who are tearing it apart choose to stop.
It must have been a huge relief for her.
I bet it was. So it becomes less about vanquishing an enemy and more about a shared recognition of responsibility for the fate of the multiverse.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here. What happens to the multiverse? Does it survive?
That's where it gets bittersweet. The Knight's actions slow down the collapse, but some wounds are too deep to heal.
So a partial victory.
Yes. The multiverse is saved, but it's forever changed.
And what about the Knights? What happens to heroes who realize they were the villains all along?
That's a question we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive into The Last Singularity.
Make sure you stick around for that. Don't forget to rate and follow True Tomorrows for more captivating stories from the edge of reality, where we'll continue to explore the intersection of technology innovation and the human condition.
We'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back to True Tomorrows, listeners. We left off with the Quantum Knights facing a truth that's got to be tougher than any interdimensional battle. They're the bad guys.
It's a gut-wrenching realization, isn't it? To think you're fighting for good and then discover you've been unknowingly causing the very destruction you're trying to prevent. Talk about a crisis of faith.
It makes you wonder how you'd even process that kind of guilt. You've got these incredible powers, you're saving planets, and then bam, it was all for nothing.
Right? It really highlights the danger of good intentions without a full understanding of the consequences. Imagine having that much power at your fingertips and not realizing the ripple effects each action creates.
They essentially traded one form of tyranny for another, even if they didn't intend to. It's like replacing a dictator with a natural disaster, both devastating just in different ways.
That's a great analogy. And the story doesn't let them off the hook easily. They have to confront the weight of their actions, and it's not a pretty sight.
So they ditch the supersuits and the dimension hopping. But then what? Do they just become regular folks haunted by their cosmic oopsie?
Not quite. The story takes a turn towards personal redemption, which I found really compelling. It shifts from a battle for the multiverse to a struggle for their own souls, you could say.
So instead of punching their way out of this mess, they have to face the consequences head on.
Exactly. They grapple with guilt, try to find a new purpose now that their old one backfired so spectacularly.
Do they try to piece back together the fractured multiverse? Or is it more about damage control at that point?
A bit of both, actually. They dedicate themselves to using their knowledge skills and even some remaining tech to help those who've been hurt by the collapse. Think rebuilding communities, providing aid, that sort of thing.
So they trade in their capes for what? Tool belts and relief supplies. That's a pretty drastic career change.
Yeah. It is. But it speaks to a different kind of heroism, doesn't it? The kind that's less about flashy powers and more about the nitty-gritty work of healing and rebuilding.
It makes you think about our own definitions of hero.
Yeah.
Do we only value the ones who stop asteroids or fight supervillains? What about the folks who clean up the mess afterward, the ones who help people pick up the pieces?
That's a great point. The Last Singularity reminds us that true heroism isn't always about power and victory. Sometimes it's about humility service and making amends for the harm you've caused.
So the Quantum Knights go from multiverse-saving warriors to cosmic first responders. But what about the Empress? How does she react to all this?
This is where the story gets really interesting because we start to see a different side of her. Remember, she was initially portrayed as this tyrannical figure, but now we learn more about the burden she carried.
You mean the burden of holding the multiverse together, knowing it could all fall apart?
Exactly. Her tough rule, the iron fist that the Knights rebelled against it, was born out of desperation. Imagine knowing the fate of countless realities rested on your shoulders, that any misstep could lead to total annihilation.
That's got to be a heavy crown to wear. So she wasn't so much evil as she was terrified, trying to keep everything from falling apart.
Exactly. And when the Knights surrender, acknowledging their own role in the chaos, something incredible happens. Instead of a final showdown, there's a moment of understanding.
So no epic lightsaber duel or reality-bending showdown. Just two sides realizing they were both wrong in their own way.
It's more about forgiveness and acceptance than vanquishing an enemy. They recognize a shared responsibility for the fate of the multiverse, and that's a powerful message.
It's like saying, hey, we all messed up here, but maybe we can learn from each other and try to fix things together.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even in situations where we think we have all the answers, things are rarely black and white. The line between hero and villain can get blurry, and sometimes empathy and understanding are the most powerful tools we have.
Welcome back to True Tomorrows, folks. We've been on quite a journey with The Last Singularity, haven't we?
It really has been something.
It's a story that's really gotten us thinking about the complexities of heroism, the power of technology, and the ripple effects of our choices.
It's definitely left a mark on me. The Quantum Knight story is a powerful reminder that even with good intentions, we can become the architects of our own destruction if we're not careful.
That's a chilling thought, Julia.
Yeah.
But I think it's a crucial one to ponder, especially in a world where technology is advancing at such a breakneck pace.
Right.
Think about all the innovations we're seeing today. Artificial intelligence, gene editing, nanotechnology.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
And a little bit terrifying, right? Because with each new breakthrough comes a whole new set of ethical dilemmas and potential consequences. It's like we're constantly teetering on the edge of a precipice, wondering if our next step will be a giant leap forward or a catastrophic fall.
It's like giving a toddler a chainsaw. Exciting potential, but a recipe for disaster if you don't know what you're doing. The Quantum Knights had the best intentions.
Right.
But they didn't fully grasp the power of their tech, and look what happened.
It's a cautionary tale for us, isn't it? We can't just blindly chase progress without considering the potential downsides. We need to ask ourselves tough questions. What are the potential risks of this technology? Who benefits from it, and who might be harmed? What safeguards need to be in place to prevent misuse?
Those are big questions, Julia. But I think it's crucial to have those conversations, to involve not just the scientists and engineers, but also ethicists, policymakers, and the public at large. We all have a stake in shaping the future, so we all need a voice at the table.
Absolutely. And I think stories like The Last Singularity can be incredibly helpful in sparking those conversations. They force us to confront uncomfortable truths, to challenge our assumptions about progress, and to consider the ethical implications of our actions.
They also make us think about what true heroism looks like. The Quantum Knights started out as these powerful warriors fighting for a noble cause. But their journey took them down a very different path.
And it's in that shift, that transformation from warrior to aid worker, that we see a different kind of strength emerge. It's the strength to admit you were wrong, to accept responsibility for the harm you've caused, and to dedicate yourself to making amends.
It's a humbling lesson, isn't it? Sometimes the most heroic act isn't about wielding power or conquering enemies, but about setting aside your ego and doing the hard, often thankless work of rebuilding and healing.
And that's a message that resonates far beyond the realm of science fiction. It's a message we need to hear in our own world, especially as we grapple with the challenges of climate change, social inequality, and political polarization. We need to be willing to listen to each other, to learn from our mistakes, and to work together to build a better future.
Well said, Julia. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the last singularity, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What do you hope they'll ponder after hearing this story?
I hope it encourages them to think critically about the technologies we're developing and the potential consequences, both intended and unintended. I hope it inspires them to demand more transparency and accountability from those in power, and to engage in thoughtful conversations about the kind of future we want to create.
It's about recognizing that the future isn't some preordained destiny, but a canvas. We're all painting together one choice, one action, one innovation at a time. And by learning from the mistakes of fictional heroes like the Quantum Knights, maybe, just maybe, we can avoid making those same mistakes in our own reality.
And who knows, maybe we can even inspire a new generation of heroes, heroes who aren't defined by their powers or their conquests, but by their compassion, their humility, and their unwavering commitment to building a better world for all.
That's a future I can get behind. So folks, keep those thoughts in mind as you navigate the ever-evolving landscape of technology and innovation. Remember, the future is in our hands, and it's up to us to shape it wisely.
And on that note, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this episode of True Tomorrows. We hope you found it insightful, engaging, and maybe even a little bit mind-bending.
Don't forget to rate and follow True Tomorrows for more captivating stories from the edge of reality, where we explore the intersection of technology innovation and the human condition.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep dreaming big.
See you on the next episode of True Tomorrows.